Hello, everyone. It's Kirsten Hagland here. Hi to our Facebook family, and welcome to another episode of Weekly Hope. I'm so glad that you're joining us. And for those of you who have tuned in the past, you will recognize our furry friend here. This is my little poodle, Elsa. She took a hiatus from the show for a couple weeks, but she is back. This is Elsa, and she's one of my best buddies. And she is a little bit a part of what I wanted to start out the show by saying today, because I want to welcome you all here, and I want you to feel like this is a super safe space for you, especially if you're someone who is in recovery or a family member or friend who is supporting someone in recovery. This is a place where we interview guests and we hear from them, we hear their stories of recovery, and we allow you the chance to ask questions and to share with us your thoughts, comments, and stories. And we just really want to make sure that this is an informal, safe place where you feel free to be yourself in whatever place in recovery that you are. Whether that's, yay, I did this, I beat this, and I want to share that victory, or I'm really in a messy place right now and I need hope. And speaking of mess and imperfection and being okay with that, is where my nugget comes in. And that's because, as you can see, Elsa has her little tongue hanging out here. And that is because Elsa, last month, she went in for a dental cleaning, and she had to have all of her teeth removed. She only had 3 left. And Elsa actually is a rescue dog. And so I got her when I was living in New York City. She was rescued from a puppy mill in the United States. She was a mom just breeding in a breeding mill for the first 7 years of her life. Every year, another litter of puppies, and they were going to drown her once she stopped reproducing. But she was rescued and saved, and that's how she came to me. I got her, and now I try to give her the best life possible. But because she was in a puppy mill, obviously they didn't take them in for routine dental cleanings and all this stuff that healthy dogs should have. And so her teeth were not so great. So even though she's a pretty dog, she did not have a great smile. So the last time she went in for dental cleaning, they had to take all those out to prevent infection. And now she has no teeth to hold her tongue in.
Oh, I
and
love
that's
it.
why now, for the rest of her little life, her tongue just hangs out. And she can't control it. And so it's she's always kind of got this funny thing going on. But she is happy, she is loved, and she has no concept of whether she's beautiful or not. She's just healthier because now she doesn't have those teeth. And even though she has a little wonky smile and her tongue's hanging out, she's healthy, and she's exactly what she needs to be. She receives unconditional love, and she gives it. So just, I was thinking about that as I was bringing her up to share, and I thought, you know what, I should share the little story of Elsa's tongue, and just know that she's an imperfect mess. We love her anyway. And even more so our brothers and sisters, human beings, that we all are an imperfect mess at some point in our lives, sometimes more than others. That's okay. And the more that we learn to feel comfortable with that and accept that, the more we can achieve a place of health and hope and healing. So with that little inspirational message, I want to welcome our guest to the show and dive into our topic, because we have a really, really incredible a topic to talk about today. And I know I was freezing up just there a little bit, so hopefully that will go away as we launch into our discussion here. But really, really exciting topic that I'm very thrilled to be speaking about today, because we're going to hear from a former dancer who has this incredible nonprofit now and does amazing work. And I myself am a former dancer. And so the dance community, the ballet world, et cetera, has always been just a sincere passion of mine. And if you've tuned in before that, you know a little bit of that story. So can't wait to dive in. We've already got someone popping on here. Kathy, Kathy Long says hi. Hi there, Kathy. Thank you so much for joining me. As well as Jeff says good morning. Good morning, Jeff. Glad to have you here. So let's bring on our guest for this week's episode. There's Amy Waddle on the other side of the screen. Hi, Amy.
Hey, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Well, I'm good. I think our viewers are as well. And I'm going to read, before we hear your story, I'm just going to read a little bit of your bio so that everyone tuning in can know a little bit more about you. So Amy, as I mentioned, is a former pre-professional classical ballet dancer and an eating disorder survivor. Her lifelong battle with bipolar disorder and triumph over suicide inspired her current advocacy work. She's an award-winning eating disorder recovery advocate, a speaker, a member of the Suicide Prevention Council of St. Louis Obispo, and a certified youth mental health first aid trainer, QPR, for suicide prevention. Is that right?
Yeah, QPR for suicide prevention, because sometimes people don't know what QPR means.
Ah, okay. I was like,
yeah, they're not familiar with it.
For suicide prevention. Okay, wonderful. Amy has her own nonprofit for the dance community called Dancing with Ed, which we're going to speak about, which she founded in 2012. Her latest project is her memoir, which she hopes will be a testimony to God's work in her life. She lives with her husband and daughter on the Central Coast of California. So, and that is in fact where you are joining us from today, correct?
Yes, the Central Coast of California. We're about 8 miles in from the ocean, and it's a beautiful place. It's beautiful.
Oh, yeah, you're very, very blessed. I'm sure if we've got any viewers watching from the Midwest or the East Coast right now in the dead of winter, that they're wishing that they were out there with you right now.
Yeah, I think it only got to 37 degrees, and that was really, really cold for us.
Oh, well, yeah. I feel very sorry for you.
You should.
Yeah. So, Amy, obviously we see you now. You're full of joy. You have a beautiful, bright spirit. But that wasn't always the case. And I know you have an incredible recovery story, which leads to how you started Dancing with Ed. But before we kind of dive into your tale, first of all, why don't you tell us about Dancing with Ed and how you started it?
So Dancing with Ed really came out of my eating disorder recovery. Towards the end of my journey, I was working with a therapist. I was deep in my suicidality at the time, and we were discussing, what I thought was the root of my eating disorder. And through the story that I'll tell you in a little bit, I was told that I was never going to dance again. And I told my therapist one afternoon, I said, you know what? That doctor was wrong. I never stopped dancing. I was just dancing with Ed. And something about that phrase stood out to me because it was in those years that created my warrior spirit. It shaped my strength and my determination. I felt the most alone when I was in that place of my life. And I didn't want people to feel that way. I didn't want dancers to feel completely isolated and alone. So a new dream was born, and I decided I want to create a space for dance and recovery, eating disorder recovery, to connect. Because I researched and I didn't find a lot of places, even a space online, to give them a voice, to have projects that are relevant to them. Sometimes dancers could be, a rare breed. We are sometimes. So that was where the vision came from. And then I started doing workshops as a hobby. I love working with youth, love working with adolescents, and I know that it's so important to build a foundation when they're young, when dancers are very young. So I started doing workshops in dance studios, and I was like, you know what, I want to make more out of this. So I decided to incorporate in the state of California. And then my brother and I scraped up some money and made my dream come true. And I remember when I got that letter in the mail with my nonprofit number on it, I sat in my car and I just cried because I couldn't believe that I was able to make something out of such heartatake, something beautiful. So
absolutely. And it's been since 2012 was when you started it, and tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing right now.
So the work that I'm doing right now is we are not only in the dance studios here in San Luis Obispo doing a workshop called Body Talk I created, which teaches the fundamentals of a body conversation, the idea that we can have a relationship with ourselves, and it can be either really healthy or, kind of negative, and how that shapes our body image. And we're also creating more and more resources on our website. I know that the dance community here is small, but the internet can reach anywhere. So we're hoping to connect former dancers like you and I doing work in the eating disorder community, but also with, body positive dance companies, practitioners that work specifically with dancers. If I wasn't in the eating disorder recovery community, I wouldn't really know where to turn.
Yeah.
Oftentimes parents will say, I don't know what to do. Where do I go for help? And so some of of my hopes are to give them a place to say, I'm going to turn to Dancing with Ed and see what resources they have, because they understand our unique situations at times.
Yeah. So speaking of that unique situation, and I know, and I just want to mention too, I've seen some, new people pop on since the beginning, and I just want to say welcome to you and encourage you to tell us your name, say hello, tell us where you're signing in from, and of course, at any time throughout the broadcast, type in your comments or questions, and we'll be happy to share them with Amy and with our audience. So Amy, let's go back to the beginning and where your passion for this came from. And your story is extremely powerful. And so I'd love for you to take us back to the beginning, to your passion for dance and
sure,
how that led to where you are now.
Okay. So the journey with my dancing started, I started really late as a dancer. 11 years old is, or 12 years old is really late in the classical ballet world. All of my peers had been dancing since they were 3. Yeah. And so when I stepped on the dance floor, and it kind of connected, something clicked in my body and my spirit. And I had this sense of coming home. I advanced really quickly in my classes, and I had the recipe, I guess you'd say, for the makings of a ballet dancer. I was driven. I was sort of a perfectionist, very hardworking and committed, passionate about dance. And so by the age of 14, I was auditioning for pre-professional classical ballet schools, which was really uncommon at the time, to only be dancing for a few years. And then I moved away from home. So when I was 14, and who I was, I'm learning more about that girl through writing my memoir. Dance was another reason why it played such a huge role, is because of my home situation. I had a workaholic father, kind, caring man, loved his family, just his job took him away from us. And so I adopted this inner belief that I wasn't good enough, that I perceived his absence as, if I was special enough, he'd come home. So that part of me went to dance school. And then the girl who was scared because her body didn't feel safe in her own home. I have 2 older brothers, and there were some situations that I just recently resurfaced through EMDR, was putting me in an unsafe, unpredictable environment. And so dance felt safe to me. And when I was able to move away from home, not only that distance from that environment, but the fact that I was always performing. I don't feel like it was ever really the broken girl dancing. I felt like it was always a performance. So I didn't, of course, know any of that at the time, that how broken I was. My dad came to every single show, and that just reinforced the idea that I am something. I'm good enough if I'm doing something. I am successful. And that brings me that positive reinforcement that I need. Unfortunately, the success, the bright lights, the you know, the living away from home at 14 with my own checkbook.
Yeah.
You know, I could buy
Yeah.
whatever cereal I wanted, you know, and that when you're young, you're like, yay, no more brand cereal, right? It all came crashing down. I had not, I did not know at the time that I was disconnected from my body because of the sexual abuse. I had, and that disconnect was the trauma response.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't feel a lot of what was happening inside my body. And I was diagnosed with degenerative disc disease. Mm-hmm. 3 herniated discs in my lower spine, arthritis, which is actually very common in ballet dancers to develop arthritis. And I had the spine of a 40-year-old when I was 17.
Wow. Yeah.
And the words that really, and I wrote this in my article, the words that shaped the trajectory of my life were, "You're never going to dance again." And I lost so much that day. I felt like I lost my identity, my relationship with my father. I had to move back home. I now know that I was put in, again, an unsafe place. My body was afraid, and that's when the depression started. It was sort of this deep buried belief that I was worthless. And my depression was not obvious at first. And a lot of times it's not to the outside world. I was very good at performing. I was very good at putting on this face that I'm okay. I'm fine. You know, I'm good. But my family knew better. My mom was very worried about me. She tried to put me in counseling, and I refused to get help. I'm like, no, I'm not talking about this. I can't. My mind really couldn't wrap itself around what had happened. I was so traumatized. And that's when I first contemplated suicide. I thought, I can't get out of this, and I can't handle this emotional pain. My brain created the solution to the problem. And of course I got some help that I needed. And I, somewhere along those years between 17, 19, 20, there was this, I don't know, this new idea came to my mind that if I could just stay thin, and if I could just keep my dancer body, then I could have everything that I had when I was a dancer. I could have that safe space. I could have the approval. I could have that feeling of being good enough, all the things that went into that time in my life. Mm-hmm. And so being I was like a clean slate for Ed to write on. And, I just believed everything it said. I started doing really destructive behaviors to try to keep my body from developing. And now, of course, knowing about the sexual abuse, that made sense. Mm-hmm. I wanted my body to disappear. My body was always the topic of conversation. I felt like it was always an object. So if I could control what my body was doing, I would be safe. And the eating disorder actually did a really good job keeping me disconnected from reality. It kept me really, and recently writing my memoir, I discovered that the eating disorder, if my body could stay the enemy, then I don't have to fight the person who hurt me.
Wow.
And that was when I finally found truth after 5 years, from the age of 19 to 25, where I was the deepest in my bulimia and anorexia. I was the thinnest, and Ed promised I'd be happy, and I was miserable.
Yep. Wait, can we just pause for a second and reiterate that? And especially I know we've got Denise watching, and Denise tunes in all the time, and she's awesome. Thank you so much, Denise, for being here, as well as Sarah. Sarah tunes in a lot. Sarah from Nevada. She says, I love these every week. They really help me. I'm struggling really bad, and weight is really low for the first time. I don't like it. So we hear you guys and see you. And I just want to just like put a major underline under what you just said, because it's that horrible lie. And I just feel like we always need to reinforce this.
Yes.
It is a lie that
Yes.
the eating disorder tells us that if you binge and purge, if you keep restricting, that then
Right.
you will finally be happy. And it just is not true. You are more miserable. Just want to highlight, underline, make bold.
Yeah, and I think it was the just 10 more, or I'm sorry, I had to share numbers. Just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Wait, just a little bit more, and then you'll be happy. And it was a moving target for me. And this is the key. I had to get to the point where it started to piss me off.
Yep. That was my point.
I was like, you know what?
This is not right. You keep saying that I'm finally going to be happy, and I'm more miserable, and that's not fair.
And it's like, you know what? I'm leaving you. I don't trust you anymore. You're a liar.
Yes, yes.
And that's when I was like, and that's when I was willing, my desire to get well became stronger than my fear of being fat or having my body change. That was the shift. I had to want that more than I was afraid of it.
Yep.
And that gave me my power. I took my power back, and recovery happened very quickly after that.
I love that. I took my power back. So what other strategies can you share? We know that the journey to recovery, once you make that decision, is still hard. It's still like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. There are days when you're like, I don't want to fight this anymore. I'm tired of fighting. There are days when you're having a string of really good days in a row, and then you slip up and you fall back into a behavior. What strategies did you use or find to be the most helpful through the recovery process to keep you on track and get you to where you are today?
Opposite to emotion.
A
lot. I had to commit to the belief that this isn't going to feel comfortable. And that's what I actually came to expect. I set that as norm, that this is going to feel awkward. This is going to feel uncomfortable. Ed's going to say this. I mean, because I had his MO, right? I mean, I knew. So I used that often when it was just like, I don't want to do this. I had already anticipated that as well. And I also I had to stay really consistent with meeting with my treatment team, even when I felt like I wasn't getting better. Because eating disorder recovery isn't linear. And I want this, all while I was saying, but I want this.
Yeah.
And what I didn't realize was that I had that. Like I was recovering. It's just, there's not this like measuring stick you can really use.
Yeah.
It sort of evolved. And then every once in a while I'd turn around and I'd go, damn.
I came a long way.
I haven't hated myself in 5 days. Just something that small. And I'm like, there's something to this. Okay, I'll just keep going. Yeah.
No, it's so good. It's a very good practice to intentionally remember where we were, and don't compare yourself to anyone else and where they are in their recovery, but compare yourself to yourself. If you're going to do any comparing at all. And I think when you think back to your darkest days and then see how far you've come, that can be really helpful in encouraging and motivating yourself. I do want to bring up a question here, because it kind of is a great transition into how we can help the dance community as well as family members who are supporting dancers. And that we've got a great, first of all, Kathy, I just want to encourage you, Amy. Kathy says, thank you so much for your courage and honesty.
Thank you, Kathy.
And Liz says here, she's talking about her daughter who's a dancer and is 14 and struggling with anorexia and is refeeding now. She's back at a healthy weight, but now hates me, her mom. Home is so stressful, and she says she doesn't like me. She says, when will this end? We're doing everything we can to help her. She's in counseling, but not seeing improvement. First, if I could just say something, Liz, I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for sharing and for seeking to be more educated and supportive of your daughter. I think, first of all, that's amazing and way to go. But second of all, I just want to encourage you and challenge what you say, counseling but not seeing improvement. I just wanted to challenge that thought, and that just encourage you that there may be improvement, a lot of improvement going on inside her head that you can't necessarily see. Right. And I know, I had a really difficult relationship with my mom when I was in recovery as a dancer, as a ballet dancer. I was also 14. And my mom and I also had a horrible relationship during my recovery. And I'm sure it seemed to my mom also like I hated her. I'm sure I probably told her that a few times, and I'm sorry for that now. And I love my mom. And I just want to encourage you, we have an amazing relationship now, and she's the best. We still have our fights for sure. We still have our difficulties and things, but we have a wonderful relationship now, and it's better because of it. So I just want to encourage you, it's not, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and things can absolutely get better with that mother-daughter relationship. And I just want to encourage you to, if you haven't thought about possibly going to see a therapist yourself, going to seek counseling yourself, being a part of a parent support group, that can be a really helpful way to talk through some of these things, hear what other parents are doing, and also, of course, get that professional guidance on how to best support your daughter at this really critical time. So those are just some thoughts that popped up into my head. Amy, what have you got for Liz?
What popped into my head was making sure that there's a really healthy boundary between where her recovery ends and where your role with her begins. Because sometimes we can inadvertently become sort of too enmeshed. Sometimes I know I did with my mother. She was so involved in being a support, but at the same time, it was in a way. I needed a clearer line of what role she was going to play in my recovery, instead of, she almost went to like part of my treatment team when I needed her to be mom, but that wasn't something that I knew how to tell her. And I certainly didn't know how to teach her. Yeah. So, looking back on it, like you said, Kirsten, my mom could have really used the support for herself. Keeping herself well and keeping her, and that might also help with that stress level. Yeah. And also knowing that this is a phase.
Yeah.
The only guarantee in life is that things are going to change. Yeah. And that was a big encouragement for me in my relationships. I had a very hard time having a relationship with another person when I was so mixed up with the eating disorder. So it wasn't that I didn't like my father or I hated my father. It was that I was busy projecting all my stuff onto them. So, wanting them to be close, and all I need is my eating disorder. No, but I want my mom. But then Ed says she's not trustworthy, and it just can be so confusing for both of you. But I love that your awareness level seems to be pretty high in knowing that this is somewhere of a growth opportunity for you and your daughter. And I love what Kirsten said again about getting that support that you need through this process, because there's probably not an easy solution.
Yeah. And I also just want to say, Liz, too, I'm going to put on Eating Disorder Hope, we have a treatment directory by state, a national treatment directory. And I'm going to put that link here in the comments section. I've also got a link in there to the incredible article that Amy wrote for us. And that is also in the comments. But I'm putting in our treatment directory. Hold on. And that is somewhere where you can search for your state page, treatment directory. And there are, everything from treatment centers to private practitioners and clinicians there. So there is the link. Sorry, trying to type and speak at the same time is sometimes challenging. And I just also want to point out, Liz says, thank you so much. And Kathy says, my daughter, who hated me as well, has stated that the biggest impact to her recovery was that we didn't give up on her. So hang in there, Liz. Really, really encouraging words. Thanks, Kathy, for sharing.
Very good. Yeah.
Amy, so kind of what advice can you give to, or what can you share has been the most effective in your work in working with dancers themselves? Because I know, and it kind of is similar, obviously they're not the exact same worlds, but for people involved in competitive figure skating, gymnastics, running, and other very body-focused sports, it can be so hard. The pressure is so intense. And they are these very exclusive kind of communities where the normal rules, like things like self-care, we don't do self-care. We push our bodies to the limit, right? We don't feel emotions. We suppress our emotions. We're perfectly calm.
Because that's what makes us strong.
Exactly. It's completely opposite from what most people, I don't know, think is normal. Right? So, and take pride in that. So how can we encourage dancers, and what things have you found to be most helpful in encouraging dancers and people in these more elite athlete environments that helps them to be healthy, but also excel in their field, because they can do that?
Right. One of the things that I found the most helpful was exploring my identity and what I was putting my identity in. Like, if my identity was in as a dancer, like I am a dancer, and that's all I am. And a lot of times, dancers will be like, what do you mean? You're like, that's all you are. Of course, you're a dancer. And that's completely 100% your identity. And so you, all of the beliefs, the narrative that went along with that, like you just said, if I suppress my needs, I'm being strong, I'm not listening to my body, I've got this. And which is the complete, like you said, the complete opposite of the self-care mindset. One of the things that helped me a lot was just revisiting who I am and trying to find my identity inside myself. I am me. I dance, I do gymnastics, I do all these things, but I am me. And knowing that, because what happened to me is that because my identity was all in my performance and what I did, when I lost that, I lost myself.
Yep.
So I encourage dancers, performers to really take a look at where you feel your identity lies. And finding value in your body outside of your sport, outside of your career, is also really important. I think that getting some perspective, sometimes it's kind of nice to spend some time with people who aren't in that world. Yeah.
Diversify.
I just... because it can be really a healthy balance, and also to encourage performers and athletes. We already have everything it takes to live mentally well and to recover from eating disorders and addictions. We really do. We have commitment, determination, passion, discipline,
persistence.
These are all the things that we have inside ourselves. It's a shift. When we shift that passion and that dedication to caring for ourselves in order to perform better, you won't, and self-love and self-acceptance, we don't start from a deficit. If you already feel like I am enough right here, my technique can improve, my performance can improve, I can get more roles, but I'm I'm good enough.
Yeah.
And that is a really strong foundation. It's not easy it takes time to develop that, and it's baby steps, especially if you've been living in the performance mentality for a really long time.
Yeah.
So it doesn't happen overnight, but it can happen.
Yeah.
And like you said, diversify, get in different perspectives.
It's so important. I just looked at the clock and wow, we've been talking for 40 minutes, and that's amazing because I love hearing from you, and this is all really, really good stuff. Last question I want to ask you, Amy, is for dancers who are in recovery now, and who are trying to find this middle ground between doing what they love and being in recovery. You talked about identity. What, if they're watching this right now, whether it's on Facebook or whether it's on YouTube, what encouragement can you give them?
I would say, I want you to know you are so much more than your dancing, than your future goals, your future plans, and the situations that you find yourself in. You're so much more than your struggles. And don't give up. Don't give up on that desire. You started recovery for a reason. And sometimes we forget why we started. But it's so worth it to just keep going and find, even if it's the little one thing a day of victory, just a tiny victory. I ate breakfast today. During technique class, I didn't live in the mirror. I didn't critique myself harshly today. And finding those little victories will be empowering, so that you're able to be on the dance floor and still have self-compassion at the same time, and maybe connecting with other dancers in the similar situations can be really, really helpful.
Such a great
journey.
Yeah, such amazing words, Amy. If people have loved hearing from you and reading your story and hearing all the great work that they do, how can they be in touch with you? And I know you do speaking and you do workshops and everything. So let people know how they can be in touch with you and invite Amy.
Yes. So I have two different places for you to connect. We're disconnected. Okay. So I have dancingwithed.com. So dancingwithed.com. You can connect with events, workshops, register online. And then for speaking, suicide prevention, mental health, I have amywaddle.com, where you can see the different projects that I'm working on, some of the mental health curriculum I've created, and just get connected with some of the things that I'm doing in the community. Love speaking to dancers, but also to dance parents and teachers to try to educate and inspire them in their role to support the dancer.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
So great, Amy. And I put the website, I've got both websites in the comments section, as well as obviously right there in the lower third, you can see, so you can get in touch with Amy if you want to hear more or ask her a question. But this has been a really extraordinary conversation. Thank you. I echo the words here from Jeff and from Karen, from Kathy, and thanking you for your honesty and vulnerability and all the great work you do to support young people, dancers, their communities, and their families.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much. We'll say bye to Amy.
Okay, bye everybody.
Bye.
Take care of yourselves.
And so great. And I want to thank all of you. Jeff says thank you, Amy. Becca says thank you, Amy, and thank you, Kirsten. Great discussion again this week. Thank you so much, Becca, for your encouraging words. It means a lot. And I just want to say goodbye to all of you. And if you're watching this later and not watching this live, I mean, doesn't matter when you're watching, but I just want to encourage you, if you know someone someone who is a ballet dancer or any dancer, or if you are one yourself and you wanted to share this, please, please, please do. These are issues that are so prevalent in this community, but are just really not often talked about. And we just want to share resources and talk about it honestly so that people can get the help they need, so that they can keep dancing, so that they can keep doing what they love. And, you know, I also had to leave the ballet world in order to get healthy, but I did dance for a while in my recovery. I found a new identity, but I still love dance. And it didn't, you know, I still go to ballets. I still dance around my house. A lot. And it's still a huge part of my life, and I still love it, but it's not my whole identity, and it doesn't have to be yours. But it can still play a beautiful, beautiful role. It's a gift that was given to you for a reason.
Yeah.
It's just, we need to find health and balance so that we can do it and enjoy it to its fullest, not with half of
sometimes
us.
Eating disorders can rob, it just sucks all the joy sometimes. So, you know, trying to hold on to that and, and remind and be connected to the people that can remind you how awesome you are.
Amen, sister. Amen. Yeah. And Becca Joy says, love Elsa too. So,
yes, Elsa, thank you.
We'll sign off. She's been sleeping here on my lap the whole time. We'll sign off with little Elsa. And I hope and pray that you all can be as comfortable in your skin as Elsa with her little
fur,
with her tongue. All right. Thank you to our wonderful Eating Disorder Hope Facebook family, and we will see you back next Wednesday for another episode of Weekly Hope. So thank you all so much, and we'll see you next week.